And so the first degree of separation is these three things. Direct to consumer obviously means the products, apps, brands that we think are so good, they don't need someone to sell them. That's to put it frankly. Coinbase's mobile app doesn't need someone to sell it. None of the crypto exchanges do, or they don't believe so. I mean, whether they do or not is not my kind of position. They don't believe so. They don't believe so that they need to reshare their fees or anything like that, or they might to some small level, but not like the way that we've talked about it. Fortnite doesn't feel like they need someone to sell it, obviously, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you invest the capital expenditure as a company to build an application or a service that's so good that it doesn't need to be sold, it just needs to be presented, that would be what I dictate as direct to consumer. So far, we've had none of those. And maybe people think it's because we don't focus on that or we don't want to. No, it's because we have brokers. And so, I mean, I think I touched on this in two of my videos that I released. It's like, no, your product, like if it's, well, let's just say it's Amway, and I don't want to, compare ourselves to Amway in any regards, but Amway soap is not as cheap as other soap. I don't know, I've never used it, but I'm not willing to say it's the best soap in the world either. But that's because their business model positions the brokers to make up for that. That's what those margins are there for. Tide or Irish Spring don't have that. Their product has to speak for themselves. And so we've never even had the notion of building something like that, simply because we're like, well, then where does that leave the brokers? And I think I touched on that in the last video of the InstaCrypto series, which is if InstaCrypto works the way that it's supposed to work, and I'll show you how it works on the latest version on my phone, and you guys can all download it too, then that's really a hell of a consumer app. And Crypto Lottery is the same degree of kind of potential. And the other apps that I haven't even released that are completely done. Like this is the other thing with the direct to consumer vibe. The direct to consumer vibe implicates that they're finished products usually. They're well put together. They're built for adoption, not built for, kind of sales processes. They're built more for adoption. They're built really well to put ad dollars behind, paid ads, most notably PPC. And the other thing is you don't really worry too much as a company if you have 100 direct to consumer products, because the problem that we face when we don't have direct to consumer quality products, which we haven't had, is that, not only does it need to make sure that everybody's taken care of and it's capable of being redistributed to some degree, also we have to invest the time, money, and energy into educating the people that are now going to need to compensate for the fact that it's not a direct-to-consumer ready product or it's priced more expensively than one, whatever it is. So that's where you would see all the investment into training and community engagement and growing your affiliate network and what all the companies do that are in the traditional affiliate marketing space. That's obviously a bandwidth that the company has to take into consideration when releasing a new product, but that is not a bandwidth that McDonald's takes into consideration when releasing a new burger, because there's no inherent additional, paradigm change. It's another very tasty, probably well-engineered, highly addictive sandwich that sits next to all of their other ones. That sells itself, that's cheap. That's so cheap, it's competitively rational to go get it. And that's where we're at. So we can release 15 D2C apps if their quality is of that nature, if the software's user interface is of that nature. You couldn't release 15 versions of GX Nitrous. It's impossible. Because GX Nitrous had so many places where the brokers had to step in. Not just for their sake, but also for our sake, because it wasn't the consumer quality product. It was something that needed to be sold and explained and handheld. as you guys do. You couldn't do 15 of those because then you'd have to invest 15 times the amount of time into educating the brokers or team to do that. You could see some of the latency issues we experience with that as well, not with the direct to consumer, because the direct to consumer essentially just people that like it come here. If you don't like it, don't worry about it. That's the mentality. And so why that I'm saying that is, of course, also to keep the structure coherent, but also because these are just two. And they couldn't be more different. Like I'll explain InstaCrypto a little bit more detail today, but Crypto Lottery I went in great detail in the previous broker council calls. Obviously, the people that have not seen the previous broker council calls, which is everybody has no idea about Crypto Lottery, apart from some of the videos that we've released. But you guys that were on the calls have a significant degree of understanding about it because we talked about it in great extent. So, but since you guys do, you know what the power of Crypto Lottery is once we release it to the consumer market. You know, InstaCrypto is obviously built for that. They have nothing to do with each other. In other words, someone could use InstaCrypto and be beyond thrilled or hate it or love it, or a million people could use it and never even know about Crypto Lottery. And they shouldn't, or never be interested. Maybe that'll be our prerogative if we want to do cross advertising in the mobile application, but it's not necessary. It's not like there are requirements for each other. It's not like there's an incentive plan baked into that per se. And so like that, we really do have a pretty intense lineup of solutions that are, they're not the solutions, entertainment, whatever it is. And they're beyond what the world is seeing right now. I'm not saying that in a light fashion, you'll see. But that means that basket of direct to consumer apps are going to keep growing. And we're not that overly interested in, does this one work at mass scale or not? We know that it works. And that's the other thing about another beautiful thing about direct to D2C is that it doesn't need to be the biggest thing in the world. It just needs to work. And it's a software, it's going to scale. The cost of scaling is very little. So with that mentality, the difference again between the domain of the broker and the domain of the consumer is that if I'm a customer and I use InstaCrypto, I don't care if another customer is using InstaCrypto. I couldn't care at all. When I'm a customer, I use Coinbase. I don't care at all if someone else is using Coinbase and it's working for them and it's not working for them. I mean, I might read some reviews or something, but once I've used it and it works for me, I don't care. That's obviously not the case inside of the domain of a sales team or an affiliate network. Because inside of a sales team or an affiliate network, you have to have continuous positive sentiment from that sales team's customers. So everybody's customers have to be happy, or else that sentiment starts to erode. And then, of course, that team has to be happy. I'm nothing against that. I was one that constantly, you're going to see how much more epic we're going to make even that domain. But right now, I'm talking D2C, so I'm expressing the difference. So when it comes to that is why we're really excited, because the scaling that we can do from an application perspective, because we've already made the big investments into the ledger, into Vault as a service and security, all of that's done. Now it's just print, press, and repeat for whatever app. And so that's exciting. And it's not just exciting, it's refreshing, because that's allowing us to really spread our horizons and entrench ourselves as kind of, an infallible entity in several structural communities. I'm excited about that. Those are the two DTC right now. But obviously, once I finish explaining those two via the videos I'm releasing, the next several will come very quickly, very, very quickly. So before I get back into the InstaCrypto hyper domain, which is what I'm going to do on this call, and because you guys have seen the videos, I want to go quickly through what the structural or what it feels like in the broker domain, because right now we're in the DTC, and then what it feels like in the new token domain, and how they kind of relate with each other. Okay, so I'm leaving now, I'm going into broker. Now, I've not released any information about what I'm about to say, and I'm going to be very careful as to not release that much information right now, because I do want to spend the next week bathing even the brokers and the token holders in the direct-to-consumer mantra, because it's something they have to understand that those apps, those DTC apps are not, oh, let's plug them into what we're doing now. No, it's a new paradigm for us. And we've already seen what it feels like when customers that have nothing to do with the customers that were brought in by the brokers, or what our current networks looks like, when they experience that. It's exceptional. And you got to imagine how liberating that it's when you can scale horizontally and vertically. Okay, now coming into so that's why I'm not trying to like lose my mind on how exciting even the broker domain is, but so let me first state this. For all my talk on DTC, that's not my shit. Excuse my French. That's not my thing. I'm just saying that is how that domain works. And that is the commitment we've made as a company to have communities at the DTC app level, even like can build communities at that level, at that, per use case. But my passion, what I think I'm contributing to the world has always been the idea of GX Broker.